Hello guys, and welcome to a new video posted on my channel. Today we are finally, after a very long time, doing another tier list video. About 2 years ago I did my first ever tier list video, which was me ranking every single one of the BMGC Season 1 players by their battle skill, by their skill of battle minigame as seen in that tournament. But now, around 2 years later, I'm going to be doing another one, but I'm going to be doing it for Season 2 players. So here we are. Here are the 34 players who are in the Battle Minigame Championship Season 2, and I will be ranking them and putting them in different tiers on this tier list right here, depending on their battle skill. So yeah, this is going to be my personal opinion. So if you guys disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. Just don't be disrespectful. You can say at the end of the video with some of the or you could say now, I don't know, it's up to you. You could say in the comments like where you think certain players would have gone that I didn't do, or maybe if you were in the tournament, you can say where you think you deserve to be, and if you agree with my ranking when I get to me talking about you or not. So yeah, or you could just comment saying, I mean, whatever you want, as always, as comments are. But anyway, yeah. So this tier list will be based on every single one of these players' battle minigame skills, as seen in the Battle Minigame Championship Season 2 matches. I re-watched every single one of the matches. Even though I skipped like most of each match to get to the actual parts where they fight and where they actually do specific things that point out more of their battle skill, like certain good and bad things that they did with like loot, like jumps, routes, chests, and stuff like that, like small mini things, because that also leads to a player's skill and how good they are. So I really evaluated each person and how they play battle minigame and how well they do that, and I've come to a conclusion on where each player should be placed on my tier list. So once again, for the final time, this is my ranking, this is my opinion, and if you guys don't agree with me, that's fine. If you guys don't respect it, keep it to yourself. We don't want any negativity. So yeah, let's not waste any more time, and let's go on to the very first person, which is Super Jackson. So the order we're doing it in is we're gonna be doing the order from when each person first joined the tournament. So the first match of the Battle Minigame Championship Season 2 was Super Jackson 6 versus Joshua the Great. And then the 17th and final match of Section 1, obviously after Section 1 we didn't see any new players. Yeah, those two were me and LaBubba. So we're going to start off with Jackson and Josh and go all the way through these players, and at the end we will be talking about my and LaBubba's battle skills. But for now, let's talk about Jackson. So Jackson got really far in the tournament. He actually did lose to Josh, but it was a very close match. And Jackson actually gave Josh a second chance because he fell to full damage on the fifth and final round. So there was actually 6 rounds in that match. Even though sadly Jackson in the 6th round, where he gave Josh enough chance, he got binding and Josh got a power 5. So for the first match of the tournament, that was a very intense and funny moment that happened for the first match. Yeah, then after Section 1, Jackson went on to beat Clem, and then in Section 3 he went against Ductendo, and he lost, but that was also a very close match. So Jackson has been very good. He's really good at PvP. He says battle minigame is only luck based, which is not true at all. I think Fire Evil said that at one point as well. Yeah, battle minigame just is not luck based. The only people who say that just don't play it as much as they should and get enough practice. But anyway, and I'm pretty sure Jackson doesn't even like battle minigame, so I don't really know why he entered the tournament. But in terms of PvP, he's really good, and he was doing really good with like chasing people, like just straight up fighting, using items like potions and the bows, and just melee. So he was really good. So yeah, I am going to be putting Super Jackson in the A tier. So there we go. There is Super Jackson in the A tier. So moving on, we have Joshua the Great. So He's one of the most least known players in in the community because of him also not playing much Legacy or Battle at all. So that actually brings him down a bit. Even though he did beat Jackson, I actually think Jackson was better than Josh. Obviously, Josh got lucky with him getting a power V shooting Jackson with binding, and then in a few of the other rounds, he didn't do too well, to be honest. He was okay he was good at PvP, but I think everything else he was just mid at. So yeah, I don't think Joshua is anything uh, too like crazy in terms of skill. And also, I will want to say, because of lots of these players in this tournament being really good players, I'm being very strict with this tier list. So if you think you're like way higher than you should be, I've been very strict. So yeah. So if you don't like my opinion, like I said, you can disagree with me in the comments if you want. Just be nice about it. Anyway, so yeah, all of that about Josh. Pretty good at PvP, but everything else he's quite mid at, and he doesn't play much at all, so he doesn't have much practice. I'm going to be putting Josh in the C tier, and obviously some of you may be really surprised how I'm putting him in the C, but Jackson in the A if Josh beat Jackson, but I already said why. Because Josh beat Jackson only because he had power 5 and Jackson had binding. But anyway, moving on to TH Clem. So TH Clem, he first of all beat Flame in the second match of the tournament, and then he went on to lose to Jackson in the first Section 2 match. And I'm going to be honest, Clem in the match versus Flame, he was fine, he was good. Even though, no offense to Flame, but he wasn't that much of a competition, but we'll talk about him in a sec anyway. However, in his match against Jackson, I gotta say, Clem did really disappoint. He was really disappointing, and pretty, like, not bad, but like a little bit bad. He could have been a lot better on he could have been a lot better on Atomics, the first round I think it was, and the final round as well, Shipyard. He made some really big mistakes with what he did. And it was a bit surprising. So yeah, I'm going to be putting Clem in the D tier. I'm sorry, Clem, but like I said, I am going to be very strict with this list and all these players. So yeah, moving on is Flame. So again, about being strict, Flame in his match against Clem was not very good at all, to be honest. Flame is really good at Bedrock PvP whenever we play Hive with him, and he's also pretty good at Legacy PvP now. But mainly, I'm ranking these players based off of their performance in the matches of this tournament rather than everything else. So in the match, the only match that Flame was in, because he lost to Clem and then he was out of the tournament, Flame didn't really do really good in his match against Clem. So sadly, Flame, I love you lots, you're a great guy, but I'm going to be putting you in the E tier. I'm very sorry, buddy. Alright, next up, we are going to be talking about Symphosoul. So he, again, was only in one match. He lost to the Visitor. We didn't get to see much of Symphosoul, but I gotta admit, in his match against Visitor, he was really unlucky with some of the kills that were some of the ways that he got killed by Visitor, because I actually think Symphosoul is better than Visitor, but Visitor got lucky in that match. Symphosoul was very good on the bow. He got some very good shots. I think I remember he got some really good shots when they played Atlantis in that match. And then PvP itself, melee, he was very good. And he was good at chasing and stuff. So yeah, he seemed like a pretty good player. Nothing too like great to brag about or anything. But yeah, he was pretty solid. So I'm going to be putting Symphosoul in the C tier. There you go. Alright, next up, like I just said, is the Visitor. So, like I said, I don't think the Visitor, he, in his match against Symphosoul, he was fine. I think, in my opinion, he was doing slightly worse than Symphosoul, but like I said, he got pretty lucky. And there was two or three instances where me and LePapa both thought that Symphosoul was going to win a fight, and then somehow Visitor did. It was a bit weird. And then in this match against Sonic in Section 2, yeah, Sonic did a lot better. So yeah, I'm actually going to be putting Visitor in the D tier. So yeah, that's where I'm going to be putting him. Alright, we're done with the first row, and now we're going to be moving on to the second row, starting off with Ductendo, one of the 2 finalists of the Battle Minigame Championship Season 2. So, you may be thinking, because Sonic, because he actually got into the final, you may think he's a straight S tier. For me, he's not an S tier. He is an A tier in my opinion, and I'm going to explain why. In terms of PvP, he's really good, but I don't think he's like top 5 PvP best. I'd say maybe he's in the top 10, but maybe top 5. I don't think he is. I think there's better PvPers than Sonic. I mean, there is obviously better than PvPers than Sonic, like the Papa and Donkey Kong. Um, but there are also other players other than those two which are better. But I will say, in terms of battle minigame knowledge, Ductendo Sonic is one of the, if not the most knowledgeable about battle minigame, except from me. Because I'm gonna be honest, I think I think I hold the crown for battle minigame knowledge. But anyway, Sonic, I think he earns second best for that. Because Sonic is really good at battle minigame knowledge. In the battle minigame quiz that is not released yet, I don't know if I even know if I'm going to release it at all, he, by a landslide, won that. He got so many questions correct. And there was even there were some questions which he couldn't even have cheated on. I'm not saying he did cheat, but even if he did, there were some which he couldn't have cheated on, which he got right. Some hard ones as well, some very hard ones. So yeah, in terms of knowledge, Sonic is one of the best, and in terms of PvP, he's also very good. So I'm going to be putting him in the A tier. I'm going to be putting it in quite a high A, maybe like mid to high A, along with all the other players that will eventually be in A tier. And I think, yeah, he is better than Jackson, because when the two fought, that Sonic did beat Jackson. He's better at PvP. He's better at knowledge. He's better at battle minigame experience, because Jackson hardly plays battle, and he's just bad anyway. So you shouldn't have joined the tournament, Jackson. Anyway, moving on to Carpers. So again, this is a player we didn't really see much of, because not only was he in only one match where he lost to Sonic, he actually was only in 2 rounds, which because obviously normally in BMGC matches it's a person has to win 3 rounds to win, but only 2 rounds were in this match video, because after the second round with Sonic winning the first 2, Carpus actually left because he didn't want to continue, which means that Sonic won. And in the 2 rounds that Carpus played in, he was fine, but he wasn't like spectacular. I think he was a bit below average. So yeah, I'm going to be putting Carpus in the D tier. I don't think he was terrible. I just think, yeah, I think he could have been a bit better. And I think one of the 2 kills on Cav in the second round, he did get knocked down instead of having a proper fight. So yeah, moving on to Grim. So, Grim is one of the best players, I'd say, in the tournament. He's very good. Obviously, he's praised a lot by Sonic and Clem and maybe a few other people. Not really much anymore, but he was obviously was a pretty big meme of the community. But understandably, because Grim is a very good player. Don't think Grim is the very best player, but he's definitely, in terms of PvP, I think he's in top 5 for PvP. He's very good. In terms of battle minigame, I'm not sure how much battle minigame Grim actually plays, but he was in the battle minigame championship Blitz, and he was very good in that. And yeah, and he actually won against Heisik in his first match, and that was a very close game, but Grim did come out on top, and he was very good. And in all the other matches he played in, he was very good. So yeah, I will be putting Grim in the later. I don't think Grim's quite in S, because actually I will say why. The reason why I don't think Grim is worthy of an S, and it's only for one reason, and it's because of the 1 or 2 times, maybe even 3 times, of when he played against Fire Evil, and Grim did bad, like really bad. Like in the round on Castle, I've never seen Grim do such a bad play where he just kept walking backwards, by the way, and just spamming harming potions trying to get like Fire Evil to stop. But he just was really bad. I think if he was to beat Fire Evil, I think he maybe would have got S tier. But for me, Grim is at the top of A as of right now. I think he is better than Sonic at battle. At PvP, definitely. Even though Sonic is probably definitely better at battle minigame knowledge. But anyway, moving on. Oh yeah, I wanted to say, so I actually forgot to do it when talking about Sonic. So one thing I'm going to do in this video as well is I'm going to compare players with their previous scores when they were in BMGC Season 1. And obviously not all the players were in BMGC Season 1, but we're going to do the comparisons of the players who were to see what their previous tier was and what their current one was. So quickly talking about Sonic's, who is the only person talked about so far who was in BMGC Season 1. His previous tier was on the C tier, so from going to C tier to A tier and being in the final of the tournament is a major improvement, so congrats to Sonic for that. Anyway, moving on, let's talk about Heisik. So Heisik, in his match against Grim, like I said, that he also did very, very good. He was very good at PvP. Not sure he plays much battle, but he's still pretty good. He did good with chasing Grim down and the fights itself. So yeah, he was pretty good. So like I said, very, very equal to Grim. I think he is slightly worse, if not a lot worse, because actually Heisik hasn't played nearly as much battle as Grim. So I will be putting Heisik in the A tier. I'd say it goes Grim, then Sonic, and then Jackson, and then Heisik, I would say. But I'd say Jackson and Heisik are incredibly close. Moving on to Steven. So this is another player that was in Season 1. Steven's previous tier was a C. However, I think Steven has gone down only by one tier since Season 1. And I think he is now a D player. He's still pretty good. He did pretty good in his match against Mikev, and he tried his best when losing to Grim. But I think since BMGC Season 1 for him and for me and maybe for a few other players, we've just all been playing battle a lot less to get less practice. So that's why some of the players from Season 1 have gone down in this video that you'll see eventually. But anyway, so yeah, we're going to be putting Steven in the D tier. Moving on, we are going to be now talking about Mikev. So Mikev, like I said, he lost to Steven, but Mikev and Steven were pretty close in terms of skill. Obviously, Steven was a bit better. But yeah, pretty close, yeah. Mikev wasn't too terrible. I think Mikev, I don't think he's as bad as an E, but I would actually put Mikev, I would put him at like the bottom of D. Not in E though. Like in terms of everyone in D, I'd probably put him at the worst in D. Moving on to the Troller, one of the most known players of the community and a battle minigame classic player who's been in nearly all the tournaments except from Blitz. He did really good in Season 1. He was an A player, an A tier player. I think everyone can agree on that. He was very, very good. But he's been playing a lot less since Season 1 ended. So his tier has gone down, but only by one. I think the Troller is now a B player. He did actually lose to Fire Evil, which is pretty crazy considering that Fire Evil used to be an E tier player in regards of Season 1. But still, the Troller, he's a battle minigame. I think along with Sonic, he's probably one of the most knowledgeable battle minigame players, I'd say. So yeah, I would put the Troller in the B tier. First person to go into the B tier. I don't think he's worthy in A. I don't think he's as good as the people like Jackson, Sonic, Grim, Heisik. I think the Troller is now a B. Final player of this row that we're going to be talking about is DTXC Daniel. So he was not in Season 1. He was in Blitz though. He came in at the very end and he got quite a lot of points, a few hundred. Yeah. DTXC Daniel was a very good player. In his match, I think he only did slightly worse than he could have. And if he did that little bit better, I think he also could have been in the B tier. But for me, I'm actually going to put Daniel in the C tier. Because if you compare Daniel's skill to how he was in... if you compare Daniel to how well Symphonsol was doing against the Visitor, or against how Josh was doing against Jackson, I think it's quite the same, really. It's quite the same level of how well they were doing, maybe even slightly worse. I actually don't think Daniel in the matches were as good as and Josh, but he's still in the C tier for me. Alright, third row. We are now going to be talking about Fire Evil, the one of the 4 semi-finalists of the Battle Minigame Championship Season 2. So yeah, Fire Evil was in the first season, and he was known as Gusty Earring at that time. He played against La Papa in his in both their first ever matches, the 5th match of BMGC Season 1. And my gosh, Gusty Earring, otherwise known as Fire Evil, was awful in that first match. That's why he was an E tier. But obviously, Fire Evil has got a lot of practice in Legacy and in Battle Minigame, and he's got way up there. And he did beat the Troller, but I only by a bit. So I actually agree with saying that Fire Evil is around the same level as the Troller, and I'm going to be putting him in B. So you may be wondering, if Fire Evil was a semi-finalist, whilst Jackson, Grimm, and Heisik were not, why are they higher than Fire Evil? Well, I still think they're better players, because it's to do with the different sides of the bracket. Like, for example, I think Donkey Kong and La Papa are both S tier players, but the reason why Doctendo is an A tier and not an S tier, even though he was in the final and La Papa wasn't, it's to do with the different sides of the bracket. But anyway, moving on, we are talking about Rehan. This is also a person who was in the original Battle Minigame Championship, and beforehand they were in the C tier. However, in their match that they played in against Fire Evil in their first match of Season 2, they didn't do very well, to be honest. They did okay, they could have done better, so I'm going to be putting Rehan in the D tiers. So there you go, Rehan. Blop. Okay, moving on to Donkey Kong, the winner of this tournament, Donkey Kong 540. So, obviously, we all know where he's going to go. Fun fact, some people might not even know this. Donkey Kong actually was in the first season of the Battle Minigame Championship. However, when I had a bit of a problem halfway through the tournament, around when starting Section 3 and only putting in certain players, I didn't know Donkey Kong too well, so I didn't put him in, even though he did actually win his match against Dabba Kappa in that match in Season 1. So technically Donkey Kong should have continued in the tournament. I didn't, though, because I only put the more known players. Obviously that was a mistake, because back then I didn't really do everything correctly. I'm not saying I do now, but I think now I do better than I did. But anyway, so back then I just put Donkey Kong in C. I didn't really evaluate many of them that match, because that wasn't really one of the main matches of that tournament. But anyway, obviously we all know where Donkey Kong's going to go. Donkey Kong 540. The winner of this tournament is an easy S tier player, the first S tier player on this tier list. Moving on to K-King, who lost to Donkey Kong in their first match of Season 2. K-King is also who I beat in his first match of Season 1. And in K-King's match against Donkey Kong, he did try his best, because obviously Donkey Kong is a very good player. There were two, I think, instances, especially on Frontier on the third round, where K-King just could not have escaped. Because I gotta admit, one of the best kills of BMGC Season 2 was the final round on Donkey Kong versus K-King, where K-King runs into the prison on Frontier. Donkey Kong is waiting with a Power 5 bow, and K-King has a totem. He walks up to the door, Donkey Kong shoots him, pops his totem. He kind of like stands still, because he doesn't really know what to do. I think Donkey Kong may have had binding in that match. I think he did. So he could have actually lost that. So good thing he had that Power 5. So he pops his totem, and then he runs right out and uses his sword like once or twice to kill him. And I think he crits him as well. And then La Papa goes, "Speed, push, splash, push." So yeah, that was a very, very good kill. But like I said, K-King couldn't really done much in that match. But he's still pretty okay. But he could have done a bit better anyway. But I say he's pretty average. I can't really know. He's pretty average, I'd say. So I'm just gonna put him in C tier, because he didn't really have a chance against Donkey Kong, and he did try his best. And I think his best is C tier. Well, his best isn't C tier. This is how he did in the match. But anyway, moving on to Away Pause. As some of you may know, Away Pause was the only player from the BMGC Season 1 tier list that was in the F tier, because Away Pause back then was very, very bad. However, he's improved. So in his first match of this tournament where he went against Dixie Desperado and won, he was still pretty bad. I'd say in that match he was like a D tier player. Then he went against Donkey Kong and he did incredibly well against him. He even killed him in one round. Yeah, and that was crazy. And in that match, I would say he was a B tier player. But obviously, in one match he was a D, and one he was a B. And then back then in Season 1, he was an F, even though that part doesn't really include. So because he was a D in one match and a B in another, I'm actually going to do the average and put him in the C tier. So obviously that is a major improvement to him being in the F tier of Season 1. Alright, moving on. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that Caking was in the D tier in Season 1. Moving on to Dixie Desperado. So, like I said, he lost to Away Pause, and he didn't really do very well at all in that match. He was previously in the C tier in Season 1. But like I said, didn't really do well at all against him in Away Pause in that match. He did okay, but he could have done a lot better. I don't think he's an F, though. I think he's an E. I don't think he's as bad as an F tier. He's like, if you saw Away Pause in his only match of Season 1 where he went against Z Money, he was walking everywhere. He was absolutely terrible. Away Pause was in that match. That's why he got F tier. But Damien wasn't as bad as that, so that's why he's going in E tier, not F. Moving on to Random Pro 8, the first of the randoms. He went against Ender, and he actually did lose, even though he continued in the tournament because Ender couldn't continue in the tournament. Yeah. Random Pro 8 is pretty good. At PvP, is actually, I'd say, good. In terms of battle, he's okay. He spawn killed twice, and then that resulted in Ender spawn killing him in the final round, which gave Ender the win. So Random Pro really caused that to himself, really. So Random Pro 8 is a spawn killer, which isn't very good. But anyway, Random Pro 8 is still pretty good at PvPs. He's a good player, and he does play a bit of battle. So yeah, I will be putting Random Pro 8 in the B tier. I don't think Random Pro 8 is nearly as good as the Troller or Fire Evil, though. So he's quite a low B player. Next is the Ender. Again, I think Ender and Random Pro 8 were very, very similar in skill. I think two of the closest people in terms of skill in that tournament, so you obviously know what that means. I think Ender is a B tier player. However, since that match, with playing with Ender in Worlds and stuff like that and stuff, Ender is very, very good at PvP. If I was ranking Ender at PvP now, I'd put him at a high A because he's very, very good. But in terms of that match, he was a B. Next, Flowery Panda. Flowery Panda was in Season 1 of the Battle Minigame Championship, and she wasn't as good. She was only a C player. However, in this tournament, she's done very, very well. I nearly put her in A. There was one moment. I actually forget what it was, sadly, but there was one moment which was pretty bad. A bad play by her, which I actually think gave her the slot in B instead of A. So that's why I'm going to be putting Flowery in B. However, I think Flowery is one of the best in these B players, if not the best. I actually would say that in terms of the players so far on the B, Flowery is actually the best, because she was very, very good in the matches against Random Pro 8 and Donkey Kong. Next is Nitro Reflex, the last player on this row. So, Nitro Reflex, in the match against, when he played against Flowery, he did not do well at all. He was probably one of the worst in the tournament, if not the worst, maybe. He did not do very well. At some points, he was just walking. His PvP wasn't great. He wasn't good at aiming, like with his melee weapons. So yeah, Nitro is an E. I actually think Nitro, out of these three players on E, I think Nitro was the worst of the three. Moving on to the last row, we are going to be talking about Mike. Hi, Mike. So Mike Knight 21, he sadly was only in one match of the Battle Minigame Championship because he lost to Stubbsy when he got yeeted off the cliff in the Frontier with the Punch Dubo in the last round on Frontier. But Mike is a very, very good Battle Minigame player. He is another one of those players who, in terms of Battle Minigame knowledge, is one of the best. His Battle Minigame knowledge is really, really good. and his PvP is really, really good as well. These days, it is. When he played against Stubbsy, he was still good, but nowhere near as good as he is now, in my opinion. So that's why I am actually going to be putting Mike in the B tier. I would actually put Mike in the A tier now, but obviously we're not talking about now. We're talking about when he was in his match with Stubbsy nearly a year ago, if not over a year ago. I'm not actually sure. I think he was actually better than Flowery. I think in the BMGC season, I think he was better than Flowery though. So Mike, even though I said Flowery is better than all of these players, I think Mike was better than Flowery. Alright, next person is Stubbsy, who did beat Mike in that match. Stubbsy did really, really go well in that match. And then when he went on to his Section 2 match, he also did very, very well, even though he did lose to Witherstorm, but he still did very well. Stubbsy, a very, very great player. He did some really good plays, especially with hitting Mike off that cliff of punch 2 in front here. And yeah, Stubbsy, he did a really, really great job of that. So I like how I say Flowery's better than all these players in B. Never mind Mike is. Never mind Stubbsy is. I don't think Stubbsy is worthy of getting A though. I don't think he's as good as these players. And plus I don't really see him playing much battle minigame. Moving on to Witherstorm. Witherstorm, he won a round against La Papa, which is crazy, and he did very, very good at that. He did very well beating Stubbsy, and he did pretty well as well when he was going against Poco Slaw. Around that time as well, when playing with Storm, he is extremely good at PvP. He's very, very good. He's doing very well in those matches, and he does play a lot of battle. And in these days, on Mickey Game, he's one of the highest. He's a player with, I think, the third highest score on points, or maybe fourth highest. But obviously, we're only ranking it off of Witherstorm's match skill. But even then, he was incredible. Which is why I'm actually going to be putting Witherstorm in the S tier. I don't think he's as good as Donkey Kong or La Papa. But he is very, very good. I think he is better than these players. So yeah, moving on. We are now going to be talking about Poco Slaw, who lost to Witherstorm. So Poco Slaw in that match was very good. Wait, what? No, he was. I don't know why I said that. I was thinking about Witherstorm again. Oh, Witherstorm, I'm daydreaming about you. No, he wasn't very good. He was fine, even though when he went against, obviously Witherstorm was a very good player, so he couldn't really stand a chance. But I think Poco Slaw was pretty average. I don't think he was too good. I don't think he was too bad. So I'm actually going to put Poco Slaw in the C tier. There you go. Bam. Alright, moving on. We are now going to be talking about Random Pro 1 Cybercube, the second random. So, when he beat Dapper Kappa, he did it really, really well. He was very good at his PvP skills. And also, in his second match where he lost to La Papa, he did really well. There were, I think, 1 or 2 points where he just randomly ran away at the very end of a fight where he should have continued. And obviously, him running away would have caused him to get killed at that moment because he was right next to La Papa. So that was pretty bad plays by Random. But other than that, Random was really good at the PvP. He's played a lot of battles, so he has a bit of knowledge. So yeah, I think Random Pro 1, I'm going to be honest, I actually think he's in the A tier. However, even though he's in the A tier, I actually think, I didn't put Random Pro 1 there, already Random Pro 8 there. I actually think he's not as good as any of these players. I don't think he's as good as Highsick, Grim, Duck Dender, or Jackson. So I think he's at the bottom of A, but he's still really good. Next is Dapper Kappa, who is also in Season 1. I forgot to say, Flowery's in C, Nitro Reflex in Season 1 was in D, Mike was in A. I think I already said that anyway, I don't know. Dapper Kappa, sorry if I repeated that, I just don't know if I said it, so I thought I'd say it just to be safe. Dapper Kappa was also in Season 1. I think this might be our first player who is staying in the same tier as they were in Season 1. Let me just double check that. And I actually think Dapper Kappa was in the first tournament he was in C. And once again, I think he is also still in C, because even though he, I think he did, yeah, he won around against Random in that match against each other, but I still think Random was a lot better than Dapper Kappa. So that's why I'm going to be putting Dapper Kappa for the second time in these tier list videos. I will be putting him in the C tier. Next up, we are going to be talking about Luis Eduardo, but one of the people, other than Terabero Vancata, with one of the weirdest and hardest to pronounce usernames. So, in Season 1, he was an A tier player. He was very, very good. And he is still very, very good at PvP. However, in his one and only match of Season 2, where he went against Mr. Power V, he lost it when he could have easily won it because he's a spawn killer. Straight and simple, Luis is a spawn killer. That is what got him eliminated in that match. He was not thinking straight. He was not smart thinking at all. So in terms of PvP, Luis is very, very good. And in terms of PvP, I would put Luis at, honestly, an A in PvP. But everything else, his battle knowledge is bad. His just general knowledge about how to win a fight is bad in terms of in terms of the spawn kills. So that's why I'm putting Luis in a D, because he may be great at PvP, but his knowledge of how to win a fight and how to win in BMGC is bad. So that's why he's a D in my opinion. Final three players, we are going to be talking about Mr. Power V, who won against Luis, but after that never came back. Just like my father. No, I'm joking. My father's still here. He's upstairs. Anyway, Mr. Power V, even though he was the winner of the match when he beat Luis, he was pretty good. He wasn't anything spectacular in my opinion. I think it was only very slightly better than average, but not enough to put him in B along with these players. So I'm actually going to put Mr. Power V in the C tier. Alright, let's talk about the final two players. So first we're going to talk about myself. So obviously it may be a bit weird ranking myself. I did do in the first tier list and I put myself in S. So yeah, like I said, in terms of battle minigame knowledge, I don't think there's a single person in this community who knows more about battle minigame and with like chess locations, battle map, just like battle. If put me in a battle minigame quiz with anyone, I will win. I'm sorry, I may be bragging, but my knowledge of battle minigame, I've been playing it since the day it came out. I absolutely love this game. Why do you think I made 3 tournaments about it and made my whole channel dedicated to Legacy Edition and battle minigame? Yeah. So yeah, but with PvP, during BMGC Season 1, I was very good at PvP. Since BMGC Season 1 ended, I've been playing much less battle and PvP. I've moved on to more like Hive PvP, like Bedrock PvP. So in terms of PvP, I've gone down. Knowledge is still incredibly high, but I still think I'm really good at... I'm not... Like I said, I'm not as good as PvP as I was back then. I still think I'm pretty good at PvP though, so I'm going to put myself in the A tier. And finally, we're going to be talking about La Papa. So, the 2-time Battle Minigame Championship winner, La Papa, the winner of Season 1 and the winner of the Billets, who lost to Donkey Kong in the semi-final match though. I still think he's an S, because I think we can all agree that Papa is an incredible player at PvP and battle minigame knowledge and stuff. Yeah, he's just incredible. And he's a great friend as well. I'm not putting him in because he's a great friend. In the matches, he did really, really well. And yeah, great player. Very smart player as well in terms of battle minigames. So yeah, that is it. That is my ranking of the BMGC Season 2 players. So, in the S tier, we had Donkey Kong 540, Witherstorm, and La Papa. If I had to rank that, I would say Donkey Kong, then La Papa, then Witherstorm. Then we had A tier players, which were Jackson, Ductendo, Grim, Hysic, Random Pro 1, and me. Yeah, I won't rank the rest because I don't want to be like... I don't want to rank... That would be ranking every player, and I don't really want to do that. That's what tier list is. It's not a ranking. Next in the B tier, we had the Troller, Fire Evil, Random Pro 8, the Ender, Flowery Panda, Mike Knight 21, and Stubbsy. In the C tier, which was the biggest tier for players, just like the first season tier list, most of the players were in the C tier, obviously because average. We had Joshua the Great, Symphon Soul, DTXC Daniel, K-King, Away Pause, Poco Slaw, Dapper Kappa, and Mr. Power V. Moving into the D tier, we had Clem, TH Clem, The Visitor, Carpers, C Justin MC, Mikev, Rehan, and Luis. And in the E tier, we had Flame, Dixie Desperado, and Nitro Reflex. And like I said, I don't think anyone played nearly as badly as Away Pause did in that match that gave him his F tier ranking in the first season. So that's why none of these players got F tier. But in terms of which of these players is the worst, it's not Flame. Flame is better than Damien and Nitro. In terms of how they actually did in the match, and I think also just in general, I think Damien is better. So if the worst player of the season does go to Nitro, but he doesn't really spend much time at all in the community. So even though you're pretty bad, it's not because like you're a bad video game player. It's just because you don't have much experience and stuff in the tournament. But anyway, so all the way from Nitro Reflex at the bottom of E, to Donkey Kong at the top of S, and being the winner of the BMGC Season 2, that is it. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, in the comments, you guys can agree and disagree with some of the things that I put down in this tier list. You can also say what your tier was and whether or not you agree with it, and what your opinions are and stuff. So yeah, and let me know if you are excited for the next tournament, which is the Hive tournament, and other new videos and streams that I have coming soon. But anyway, that is it from me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel, like this video, and also hit the bell to get notified whenever a new video stream is announced. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys!